Before we get into this next episode, I just want to take a quick minute and say a couple of things. First of all, thanks for watching. I'm always amazed that people other than my parents and our close friends watch this nonsense, and I'm even more amazed that some of you actually enjoy it. So, yeah, thanks for watching. But beyond that, most of you already know that these videos aren't exactly in real time. While we're out sailing around and exploring, internet access for us is, well, sometimes pretty slim and hard to come by. So we put these videos together. When we get internet access, we upload them. And that generally makes these things a little behind real time. But right now, they're even farther behind than normal. For the last nearly 3 months of our sailing up the Sea of Cortez, I had cell phone service twice that I can remember. And when we had it, we uploaded the last handful of episodes that you've most likely already seen. And being off the grid for that long, well, for me, it was kind of enlightening, invigorating. It was nice to be disconnected. But now we're back. So we've got a whole bunch of episodes coming your way from our trip up the Sea of Cortez. But I guess that brings us to where we are now in real time. Yesterday, we just hauled out the boat in the very northern tip of the Sea of Cortez because it's currently hurricane season and blazing hot. But that's that. We're back and we're gonna do stuff for the summer. We don't know what yet. Stay tuned, we'll figure it out. Right now I'm going golfing with my dad. That's pretty great. See you later. In our last episode, we spent a couple of days at one of my favorite places. This time around, we have a quick and easy, short little sail to San Evaristo, where we wait out a little bit of weather and have a quick discussion about heaving to. Well, there goes Isla San Francisco in the rearview mirror. Adios. Today we're making a short hop to San Evaristo. It's about 9 miles, which is a pretty nice little short hop. We got pretty light wind sailing, but we're moving and it's gorgeous out. And since we were moving, of course someone was fishing. Here, fishy, fishy, fishy. How's your fishing going?
Good. I had to sail the ship instead of fish. Somebody's got to do it. Actually, I can do them both at the same time.
No, you can't.
I can, look. I'm fishing. I'm fishing and I'm sailing. Do it both. It's amazing. If there's anything we could do to make this boat go a little faster.
Even though this little bit of sailing wasn't exactly gonna break any world speed records, after a quick couple of hours, we made it here. Well, we just made it to San Evaristo. This is a quintessential Baja fishing town. It's small and dusty, remote and rugged, and has a lot of really friendly people that live here. But as far as sailing goes, it's got a pretty well protected, almost from every direction, good anchorage. And for the next couple of days, there's supposed to be a fairly good blow. So for us, it's going to be a great spot to spend a couple of days. But on a side note, you may have noticed that we generally travel with a pack of people. That's kind of how we roll. While we are in La Paz, this group that we've traveled with for quite a while, we've all diverged. We've gone our separate ways because everybody's got different timelines and schedules and plans. That's the way cruising works. But not to worry, we got other friends. My old friend Ken, he's anchored right by us. But also, pulling in here to San Evaristo, we ran into another friend we met in La Paz. His name's Sebastian on the Trimaran Andoril. That's a historic boat. And he's a pretty interesting guy from Uruguay. So you'll probably see a bunch of both of those guys for the next few episodes, because we like to travel with a group, and they're kind of cool guys to hang out with. So that's that. We're going to go check out this town. With a prominent point on its southern shore, as well as another one up to the north, you can find pretty good protection from the typical wind and weather that rolls through this area. And with a couple of bays at San Evaristo, there's room for plenty of boats. And for those sailors who like to stretch their legs, the mountains behind San Evaristo provide plenty of room to roam. Since we were going to be in this dusty little town for a couple of days waiting out some weather, we rounded up the troops and we went to shore to explore.
What up, dog?
San Evaristo truly is a quintessential Baja fishing town. It's remote and rugged and pretty far off the grid. If homes have power at all, it's done by solar, and cell phone service was left behind miles and miles ago. But even with all that this place doesn't have, it's still a pretty nice place to spend some time. The fishermen are incredibly friendly. There's a desalination plant for fresh water, and even some pretty nice open and airy public restrooms. And if you're willing to get out and put a few miles on your feet, there's plenty of stuff to see. Just up over the hill from the main part of town is an old salt mining operation. And even though these salt ponds aren't still in active commercial operation, it's still a pretty interesting place to spend the day, roam around, and see how salt was harvested. And if you push on just a little bit farther past the old salt ponds, that's where you'll find a nice rocky beach that's perfect for an afternoon snack.
Papaya.
And since San Evaristo is a little fishing town, on the shores of this bay, at its one and only restaurant, is where you'll find some of the freshest fish around. Straight out of the boat, and on today's menu is a freshly caught snapper.
This is fish. Here, other than fish.
Does it taste fishy? Is there red room for the fresh stuff?
Yeah. I have a feeling that they don't even use it.
And if you're not feeling like the grilled fish, well, a nice ceviche is not too shabby either.
Help? That little backstop?
Well, I think before we go any farther with these episodes going up north into the Sea of Cortez, we need to back up and revisit an older episode. When we crossed the Sea of Cortez, we hove to outside of a little island called Isla Isabel, and I had a surprising number of emails, questions, and comments regarding heaving to. So, today we're going to try to answer some of those questions. But before we get started, we're not going to get overly scientific or detailed. This is just going to be a quick little discussion about it. So, what is heaving to? What's it used for? And how do you go about it? So, number one, what is heaving to? Basically, it's a way to stall out the boat and stop forward progress. Number two, what's it used for? Well, I think for most sailors, it's thought of as a heavy weather tactic. When the seas are big and steep and breaking and gnarly out there and you're going too fast down the face of the waves maybe. It's a way to, well, basically stop the boat and wait out some weather. But that's not what we're going to talk about today, because in my 25 years of sailing, we've never had to heave to in heavy weather. And we've been caught out in 50 plus knots and had some pretty gnarly times. But heaving to was never the option we chose to ride out that weather. Storm jibs, bare poles, whatever, it wasn't heaving to. But that brings us to what we generally use it for. It's a way to stop the boat and wait for something, or land a fish, or get some rest, or wait for sunrise. When we're out sailing in the big ocean, speed is generally what keeps this boat comfortable. Not always, but for the most part, speed is what keeps the boat stabilized and powered through the chop and the swell. So most of the time we're trying to go as fast as we can because that's the most comfortable. And we're all about comfort on this boat. But sometimes when we're going too fast, we get to an anchorage maybe in the middle of the night, sooner than we had hoped, like what just happened to us at Isla Isabel. So, rather than try to anchor in the middle of the night in a rocky anchorage that's a little sketchy, we hove to and waited for sunrise. And I guess that brings us to number three. How do we heave to? Before we get into this part, every boat's a little different based on your keel, your rudder, your sail plan, the wind, and the sea state. Heaving to is going to be slightly different. On our last boat, which was a Tiana 37, we hove to using a staysail and a reef main. That's what worked the best. On this boat, all we use is the mainsail. It's completely different. But also, I don't have internet access at the moment, so I can't pull up a fancy graphic for you. So we're going to use a little chicken scratching. Bear with me, we're just trying to get the point across. So let's assume the wind and the swell are coming out of the north. And since this is a racing boat and racers like to go upwind, we're going to have the boat going in this direction and our sails sheeted in tight. Our rudder is basically centered. Again, this is all basics. So we're going upwind, and since this is a racing boat, we're probably going pretty fast, which is what happened when we were heading to Isla Isabel, and we just needed to slow the boat down and wait for sunrise. So we hove to. How do we go about that? On this boat, again, it's pretty easy. We're just going to roll up the head sail. We would sheet the mainsail to windward so it's backwinding, and then we would turn the wheel so the rudder is trying to point the boat to windward. And by doing all that, the boat is basically going to come to a halt. It's trying to turn itself upwind, but with the mainsail backwinded and the rudder hard over, and the wind and the swell coming at us, the boat basically stops. It can't make any more forward progress. It's stalled out. And then we just creep sideways very, very slowly. There's no more forward progress. It's just a sideways creep. But what also happens with this, and this is the physics part I don't understand, is that around the boat creates this big slick. it calms down the waves around the boat. I don't know why it happens, but it happens. While we were hove to outside of Isla Isabel, we had a 4 to 6 foot swell. And if you can imagine us just dropping the sails and bobbing around out there waiting for sunrise with a 4 to 6 foot swell, we would have been ear to ear and pretty miserable. But being hove to, the boat stays in this general direction, stalled out, sliding sideways, creating this slick, and becomes pretty comfortable, really. It was like we were just anchored in a mildly rolly anchorage, not like we were out in a 4 to 6 foot swell bobbing ear to ear. It's kind of amazing, really. So that's kind of it. I think we'll go outside and show you how we actually do it on this boat, and that'll be kind of the end of Heaving 2 101. Our last boat, which was the Tiana 37, it worked really well to heave to with using the stay sail and a reefed main. On this boat, it's completely different. All we need to use is the mainsail, and depending on the wind and the sea state, that determines how much mainsail we need up. Right now, there's basically, I don't know, we got about 8 knots of breeze, so not much, and pretty much 0 swell, so we'll use the full main. If there was a heavier breeze, heavier swell, we'd reef the main down, depending on the conditions. So all we have to do to heave to on this boat is roll up the head sail, slide the traveler to windward, we sheet the mainsail tight, and then turn the wheel to windward as well. We have hydraulic steering, so the wheel kind of locks itself in place. If you don't have hydraulic steering, you just lock the wheel in, and that's it. It's done. And now the boat's just kind of sitting here, and that's the point. We're not making any more forward movement. We're slowly kind of drifting just sideways. We're not going forward, just sideways, but very, very slowly. It's really like we're anchored in the middle of the ocean. There's a little bit of breeze, a little bit of chop, but the boat is really just sitting still. It's kind of nice, really. So for us, though, if we are hove to, we do still sit on watch, so one of us is always up. We can see what's going around. If there's any traffic coming, fishing, whatever it is, one of us is still on watch to make sure we're sitting okay, not in anybody's way, and nobody's going to plow us over. Okay, Heaving 2, it's done. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.